Hey guys, so today we're going to try a new type of video. This is going to be a video about a poker tournament I played and won earlier this week. And hopefully I can walk you through the hands that I played, give you some thoughts on them, and just see how this video turns out. Never tried to do this for a poker tournament before, but figured it would be cool to go through. And maybe some of you guys are interested in poker tournaments, how they work also. So without further ado, we'll go to the screen here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you the hands that I played. We're going to talk about some things that you might be thinking about during a poker tournament. So the tournament in question was the $82 rebuy on Ignition Poker from Wednesday. This tournament starts at 9 o'clock in the morning, usually runs till about 2:30. So if you win the thing, you're looking at about a 5.5 hour investment. The deal is you get 10,000 chips. Blinds start at 35.70 with a 7 ante. And when you're thinking about how you're going to play hands in a poker tournament, really the important number is how many big blinds you have. Okay, so the only thing that matters is how big is your stack relative to the big blind. And you can see over here, like this software actually shows you that you have 143 big blinds at this point. It's good enough to estimate that you've got 10,000 in your stack. Like literally it's 99.93 because you've anteed 7 for this hand. But knowing that it's about 150 big blinds that's the important number. And so this is our first hand of the tournament, ace 8. We don't end up playing this hand. And what we're going to do is just fast forward through to the hands that we played. Okay, so here we're under the gun with queens. And we're just going to raise it up to 3x. We get called in one spot by both blinds, and the flop comes king high with no flush draw. And generally what we're looking to do here is probably just check this through the flop, and might call a bet on the flop, but really not looking to build a big pot with this hand, I guess is what you would say. And it checks all the way through, and here's our miracle queen on the turn. So basically right now we have the nuts. You don't want to get cute at this point in case someone's drawing to an inside straight, like with ace 4, ace 5, or maybe somebody slow played something like pocket 3s or pocket 2s on the flop, and you can just win a big pot right here. You also don't want to let anyone with jack 10 or ace 10 or ace jack or 2 clubs see the river for free. So here, some people might think that you want to get cute here, and really, when you've got huge hands, the idea is to build a big pot and take it down. So what's going to happen is somebody actually leads out in front of me for about 40% of the pot. And following through with what I was just talking about, you want to go ahead and raise, or you want to play this hand for as many chips as you possibly can. So I raised to 2,200. Something cool happened behind me. The tiny stack called. And why I say that's extra cool here, not only is he putting in chips in a terrible spot, but it turns out it's a bounty tournament. So you get like the buy-in's $82, and every time you knock somebody out, you get $20. So there's a little extra equity in knocking people out. And everyone folds, and this guy has something hopeless like 10-9. Yep. So he just handed me some chips. That's awesome. And we're up to about 13,000. Go to our next hand. And we have queens again. Wow. And we just raised 3x on the button. We get called by the small blind, and I think the same guy that we just knocked out when he had 10-9 over shoves for something ridiculous, 70 big blinds. This is just a snap call. He goes away. This looks like a pretty good run out for us. He had ace jack, just again hands us his stack. So we have been in 2 very lucky spots so far and almost doubled our stack. All right, hand 15, and to give you an idea, this is hand 15. The tournament ends up lasting 295 hands. So call from the button with ace 10. It's not like this is some great hand, but we do have the button, and that provides a huge advantage. Everybody decides to come along, and it's a king jack flop. Not looking to play a big pot here, obviously. I went ahead and folded here. One idea might be to call one bet and either try and take the pot away from him on the turn, or you could, obviously spike the miracle queen. one idea that dominates your thinking here, though, is that people don't bluff so often or continuation bet so often into a field of 4 players. So like when he bets 740 here, he's probably scared because it's kind of a big bet relative to the size of the pot. But the other thing is he's less likely to be bluffing than if it were just he and you heads up. Like if it were he and I heads up, I would very likely call here on the flop and look to see what he did on the turn. Anyway, let's go to our next hand. And it's red, which means we must have lost it. I catch on quick. All right, we're going to call and see a flop with a pocket pair. We are 180 big blinds deep. And both the stacks are, we have them covered, but basically we're playing for our entire stack here. And you want the stacks to be deep when you're looking to play a speculative hand like this, because you're not going to hit a 6 very often. You're basically doing what's called set mining. You're looking for a set on the flop, and if you don't find it, you're pretty much just going away. So we flop second pair and a gut shot straight draw. Pretty good flop for pocket sixes. I go 600, 600. I imagine I peeled one off here. I did, and the turn was a queen, and I can't stand this much action. He bet half the pot. I'd be calling 1600 here with 3 hopes. Either I hit a 6 or a 5 on the river, or maybe my sixes are just good. Seems unlikely, and it, maybe I could get it to go check on the river. All in all, too expensive to peel one more off. Peeling just means draw. Except I did call. That's interesting. So I guess I decided that all 3 of those things were worth it. And the river went. Check, and he bet, and now I folded. No, now I called. What in the world am I doing? Yeah, top pair, top kicker. Okay, cool. So we gave away like 3,000 chips there for some reason. It's even more than that, wasn't it? Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing here. Next hand. Ace 5, huh? We completed the small blind. We flopped the backdoor nut flush draw. That's about all this hand has going for it. Now we turn a very nice hand, right? Because we have a blocker to the nuts, which means that even though we don't have the nuts, the best possible hand, we have a card in our hand, i.e. the ace of hearts, that makes it impossible for anyone else to have the ace high flush. So we certainly can threaten that. So we've got a huge draw here, and we block the nuts. I imagine that I put some action in on this card. And I went ahead and bet pretty much like the pot. Oh, when we're talking about bet sizing, like generally your bets on the flop are going to be smallish, and your bets on the turn and the river are going to be largish. And I got popped. Can't imagine I'm not calling this or just shoving. Seems like call is probably the best play here, which I did. And the river bricks off. Brick is just an unimportant card that doesn't improve your hand. And I imagine it went check, bet, fold. Yep. Next hand, hand 31. We have a suited ace. Suited aces are nice hands, especially when the stacks are deep. Because they can make monster hands. That's why. So I took one off. This is a little loosey-goosey, but it's a rebuy tournament. We do have a suited ace. Imagine this went check, bet, fold. Yep, next hand. Another suited ace. We limp with it. No one raises behind us. That's good. Another idea here is that if there hadn't already been someone in the pot, like under the gun limped, if it had gone 3 folds to me, I would have raised this hand. When someone limps in front of you, and like I don't have the button, I'm stuck at a bunch of people left to act behind me, I have a speculative hand like this, I'm going to tend to just limp also rather than raising. But pre-flop, if I'm the first person in, I'm almost always raising. And in fact, I can't think of the last time I wasn't the first one in pre-flop without a raise. Just not good poker to limp. All right, we flop the backdoor nut flush draw and an overcard. Checks around. The turn does us no good. And we're just in check fold mode here. And on to the next hand. We'll do a stack check here. The blinds are up to 100, 200. We have 11,000. So we're sitting at like 55 big blinds, the speed limit. And we have a nice, called a suited connector, Jack 10 suited. and we have the button. So this is a, you know, before the betting starts, we think this is a pretty nice situation for us to be in. And it's three folds to us. I imagine I'm gonna pop it to 500 or 600, or I'm getting cute at this point, making it 428. And the big blind calls me. We flop top pair. You're going to be continuation betting. Continuation betting is when your head's up. I guess it could be more than two people, but it's typically a heads up situation where you're the pre-flop aggressor and you bet on the flop, kind of sort of regardless of, you really shouldn't be betting everything, but you should be betting a lot of things. And one idea is that if we're going to be bluffing in a certain situation a lot, we also have to be, like, we can't get cute with our hands that are actually good. Like, we have to be betting, we have to be protecting all those bluffs with some actual good hands when we bet. So this is certainly a hand that I would be continuation betting if he checks to me. Not getting cute. There's an amazingly low amount of getting cute that's involved in my game. And he actually leads out. So what he probably has here is a pair of fours or a pair of sixes. He might have a draw, either the heart draw or a straight draw. He's looking to get a reaction out of us. I don't really want to talk him out of continuing to do this. So I imagine we just called and see what happens on the turn here. You know, I don't want to raise him here and have him shove over me. That seems silly. And if he's bluffing, like if he wants to keep on putting money in with bottom pair, second pair, that's fine with me too. So it seems like all roads lead to call here. And turn is a 6. He leads. I imagine I just call him again. River is an ace. He leads. And I imagine I called him again. He did. And what does he have? And he has 9-7 for a busted gut shot draw. Okay, so look what just calling did there. It kept all this garbage. He felt committed to bluff at it 3 times. Whereas if I raise earlier in the hand, like I can get myself into a sticky situation and I can talk him out of continuing to throw money in the pot, looking for one of 4 cards. So we're in a nice pot there. We're up to about 16.5 and still at 100, 200, which means we've still got 80 big blinds left and queen jack off. Went ahead and raised it small, like 2.2x. Button shoves behind us, and this is going to be an easy fold. Here we go to the next hand. In 44. Make a small raise. Note the theme of raising when you decide to play a hand and you're the first one into the pot. Called by the button, that's not great. Both blinds call. We have flopped second pair. Seems like this is probably going to be medium strength hand that's going to check with 4 people in the pot if it goes check, check to me. And a button bets. It's a little bit of an auto bet for him. I think I probably peeled here. I do. Turns a 9. It's check bet. I probably decided I had had enough here. Yep. And 47, we have queen 10 suited in the big blind. We are 75 big blinds deep. Folds around to the button, who makes a little 3x raise. He's going to be doing that with a large percentage of his range. And I'm going to go ahead and call and see what the flop brings. The flop brings me second pair. So this is probably going to look something like check bet call when you've got a what's called a condensed range here, which is what I'm going to have for check bet call. Like the situation is kind of, you just have to, you know, call on these flops. Your raising doesn't accomplish anything. You're certainly too good to fold. It's kind of a gross situation to be in because you're not controlling the action. But like the hand, it's not good enough to be raising with. It's too good to be folding, and you're just going to call here on the flop when he continuation bets. Turn is a 3. See if he slows down. He certainly did. We're almost surely good at this point. Like if he had a king, he would be betting here. It's possibly something like queen jack, but the river's a king. Almost certainly my hand is good here. And, you know, I look fairly like I could be drawing at this point. Like maybe I had clubs, maybe I had jack 10, something like that. Maybe I had a 7. You know, we can probably get him to pay off a value bet here if he's got something like ace-7 that he decided to try and get to showdown. Maybe even he has a worse queen than us that would pass. So I imagine I fired a bet here, probably like in the 2,000 chip range. I went ahead and made it like almost the pot, 2,900 here. And he just folds. And I guess the world will never know. Actually, will the world know? I've just got it in there to show my whole card, so we don't know here. All right, next hand. King, queen in the small blind. Wow, this really surprises me that I called this, except I guess the thinking was he's got a short stack and we could play for stacks if we flop top pair and there's that bounty in play. Yeah, that's my justification. In general, this is a pretty lousy hand to be playing out of position. Like if it's suited, sure, but offsuit face cards out of position, not really a situation you want to be getting yourself in. The only thing here is like against the stack that's only got 5,000 chips left, the stack that made the pre-flop raise, the SPR, which is an important concept, stack to pot ratio, is only going to be about 3 here. So I imagine what I was thinking was I'll have a good enough hand to commit to playing for stacks if I flop, a pair here. And this is predicated on him being a short stack. Like if we were deep, there's no way I would call here. And we flop a gutter ball, need the jack for the straight. It goes check, check, check. The turn goes check, check, bet, and I folded, and we move to the next hand. We're still sitting at 15,000, about 75 big blinds. Ace queen suited on the button. Awesome situation to be in. We have an 800 under the gun +1 off a bigger stack, and then a tiny stack calls. And remember, we're playing for bounties here, so there's a bonus when we knock somebody out. It's very possible at this point that I just shoved this hand. Maybe I called, but I gotta think there's 1,300 chips in the pot already here. If I get everyone to fold, I might have just shipped this in. Oh, we get a call. I'm almost certain I would have shipped this in now. Just called. Okay. So 2,900, we flop a bullet. So like we're just going to bite our lip and call basically if people fire at us here. There's no way I'm ever folding this hand at this point. Bets, that's a little concerning. Most people would raise ace-king pre-flop. So I think the most likely hand he has here is something like, ace-queen, ace-jack, ace-10, something in that range. Normally, when there's somebody who's all in and not involved, this is called a side pot now. Normally, people don't bet unless they have a hand that can, reasonably win a showdown, because like there would be no point to making everyone else fold if you can't win against the person who's already all in, would be the thinking. So I went ahead and called. The other guy went away. King peels off on the turn. That's actually like a pretty good card for us, because even though we don't really think he has ace-king in his range that often, the fact that one popped up here makes it less likely that he's got ace-king, just because there's fewer kings for him to have now. Like there's 3 kings for him to have now instead of 4. We didn't think he had ace-king in the first place, and if he's got something like ace-jack, ace-10, which is really what we're crossing our fingers for, this is good news for us. And if he fires, we're just going to keep on calling. He fires 40% of the pot, we call. And we make 2 pair on the river. This really actually doesn't change all that much, but whatever he does, we are certainly playing along here. He fires 3,002. I kind of imagine I moved in on him here, hoping I could get a call from like ace-jack or ace-10, a stubborn call. It's possible I just called. I did just call. And, what was he doing the whole time? He bluffed the flop. He caught second pair on the turn. And we, win this huge pot and pick up the rebuy from the player with 4 deuce offsuit. Or not rebuy, bounty. That'll put us up to like 25,000 chips. Was that? Yeah, okay. 25,000 chips. The blinds have moved up to 15300. So we're playing like 80 big blinds. Now we have a suited connector under the gun. We're certainly going to make a raise probably to about 650, 700 here, I would imagine. 667 it turns out. That's 2 for 3 in the box score. And everyone folds. It was not an interesting hand. Pick up the antes, and we move on. Ace 4 in the big blind. So we just check it. We flop top pair and the backdoor nut flush draw. I imagine I peeled one off here. I did. And they bet 1/7 of the pot and called. There's no reason to fold. The Queen of Diamonds on the river, and dude goes all in. So it's an easy fold at this point. Jack 3 suited. So this is the kind of hand that I would complete the small blind with if it's not raised in front of me. Basically, I'll be doing that with most suited hands. Being suited is so important. Okay, there's almost no offsuit hands I play at like full table, deepish stacks situations, other than ace king, I guess. So I limped along. The big blind said, fine, let's see a flop. I led when I hit second pair. He called. The turn's actually good for me again because it makes it less likely he's got a king. I imagine I led. I've also picked up a spade draw here. I led for 2/3 of the pot, and he went away, and we moved to the next hand. Hand 63, we have 9s on the button. We picked up some nice hands, and some nice hands on the button, too, which is a bonus for us. So under the gun limps. Somebody else limps. We make it 4x. Liking how this hand is starting off. And then 2 more people call. Our SPR here is going to be like 5 against the person in the big blind. It's going to be 2 against the under the gun player because he's only got 8,600 chips left. There's going to be 4,300 in the pot. And a flop comes with 2 overcards. We are not looking to play any poker here. If both people had checked the 8 on the turn, I imagine I probably would have fired a bet and probably taken it down at that point. But when he leads out, I have no more interest in this hand. And we go to our next hand. 71, we have ace queen on the button again, continuing our theme of picking up good hands on the button. A couple limpers, we pop it to 4x, pretty similar to the 9s hand so far. And both people call. There's going to be 5,700 in the middle. We're going to be playing with an SPR of about 3.5 against the early position limper and a little less than 2 against the other player. That's kind of another interesting thing to think about in tournament poker is when you're playing a hand multi-way, which means more than 2 people are seeing the flop, you might play the hand differently against one opponent than against the other opponent, depending on what the stack sizes are. All right, so we flop 2 overcards and a backdoor club draw. And I imagine I went ahead and put out a bet here. I do. I bet half the pot, and I get check raised by the small stack, and I can't imagine I continued playing this hand. I didn't. Good for me. I've surprised myself on a few hands already, but not here. All right, next hand. 72, we have pocket 4s. We'll go ahead and limp it along. This is sort of like that, I think earlier I had a suited ace or I had 6s, and I made the point that if I were first in, I would be raising with this. But sometimes when people limp in front of you and you don't have the button, I'll just limp with these type hands. And we're, again, set mining. We're just looking to peel off a 4 here. And this ace jack 8 is just like, we have 0 interest in this hand now. Moving on. Next hand, we get a suited connector. And we'll go ahead and raise it to 853. Notice I'm first in. I want to play the hand. I'm raising. Like once I decide I want to play the hand and it's folds to me, it's going to be raised to 850 or 900 or 853, whatever the hell I did, with my entire range. So I might be doing this with aces, kings, 6-5 suited, ace 3 suited. It's important not to do one thing with some family of hands and another with some other family of hands. People can exploit that, and you don't really want to be doing that. You want to have your entire range of playable hands acting similarly pre-flop when you're first in. And just got the raise through. We pick up the blinds. Next hand, we have kings in the big blind. The blinds have moved up to 2,500, and we have 15,000. So we're down to only 30 big blinds. Notice, Our stack hasn't really decreased in terms of the number of chips we've got, but relative to the blinds it has. Let's go ahead and play this hand. Then I've got a 1 o'clock bridge game coming up, and we'll chop this as part 1 of this tournament, and then pick it back up later on after this hand. So let's see what happened. Ooh, we get a raise to 2,500. Kings, we are certainly going to play for our entire stack. We don't get cute, so there's like 0 way in the world that I'm not just putting all my chips in when it gets to me. We put all the chips in, he calls, and he had ace king. So he was drawing the 4 outs 5 times. Our hand holds up. We are up to 25,000 chips, and the next hand we'll pick the action back up with is at 3,5,700. So we're still sitting in the 35 big blind range. Rebuys are available up until the point where the blinds get to 600, 1,200. So we're sort of approaching that range where people are going to be cognizant of the fact that they can't rebuy anymore, I guess you would say. So that's part 1 of this poker tournament from Wednesday. And we will get back on hand 98 later on for part 2. Hope you guys enjoyed this.